Hey everybody, Happy New Year to you. And we're going to start it out on a bang here. This is one of the most popular fully automatic turntables I just can't get enough of them in here to make it work. But this is the mighty JVC Victor QL-Y55f. Direct drive, fully automatic turntable, a true audiophile turntable with VTA and the servo arm and the big motor and the whole bit. Let's go ahead and go over the features and the functions of this really cool machine. So I hope you all are having a great new year. Man, it's been busy. Good Lord, a lot of big dog high-end turntables going out the door. So it's been kind of odd, man. But anyway, it sounds like, hopefully things are getting a little bit better. People are doing good. We're doing good. Snoop Dogg's fine. He's in the next room sleeping. He may come in here and show up. We'll see. But I want to talk about this really cool JVC because, as I mentioned, don't do a lot of these, not because I don't want to get every one of them in I can. It's just hard to find really good, clean candidates. And this one here is, man, it's in really nice shape. It's been recapped and restored. I changed all the licks out to Elnas and Chicons and Panasonics. And I lubed the motor, and I lubed the arm, and I cleaned all the front panel switches, replaced the switches around the motor, and you cleaned the VTA tube, and set the CDS sensor, and on and on and on. It is just ready to rock. It also has an upgraded cable. I changed the RCA cables out to Mogami's with Amphorol ends on them. So we'll look at that here in a minute too. Because I don't normally talk about it, but I actually do offer options when you get my turntables. If you want better RCAs or better feet and stuff like that. A lot of times if I find out after talking to somebody that they've really got a nice high-end system and, it'd be worth it to go put an expensive cartridge on it or something, I'll go, man, it's the best money you can spend. Because I'm not a cable snob or anything, but there's something to be said for changing out a 40-year-old original, cable that might be oxidized a little bit. But anyway, getting back to this thing, look at this thing. It is in really nice shape. Check that thing out, man. Really cool. Get on here and show the buttons and stuff as well there. Come back around here. And we'll go back around here to show you the Mogami cable. Yeah, I do a dedicated end. These are loomed up. I do a separate dedicated end. I don't do that molded wire shit that they come with factory, So anyway, just, again, really super nice performing turntable. So if you're looking for a full automatic and you really want some performance out of it, these are the way to go. The big Denons, the 51, 52, the 65Fs Denons, and these 55 through 77 Victors are the best fully automatic turntables anybody made, bar none. So if you want that convenience of full automatic, here you go, man. So anyway, my artist of today, we're going to go, I think where our last one was a little bit on the deep end, going one way, we're going to turn towards the heavens this time. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the band Lazarus. So my band of the day is Lazarus. Snoop Dogg actually popped his head in for a second, and when he saw me with the camera, he literally turned around and walked out. So, I'll apologize for my dog. Ever since, people have been sending pictures of female dogs for him to check out, he's kind of gotten a case. I think he's going to get an agent. I think it's going to happen here next. But anyway, Lazarus was one of the first Christian-type, rock-type bands that kind of crossed over. And for that, they've actually got a pretty cool place in music history. So anyway, they were formed in 1968. Billy Hughes was the main dude. He played guitars and violin, and he sang. And then there was Gary Dye was on keyboards, and a guy named Carl Kess was on bass. Okay, they didn't have a drummer. These guys are like Crosby, Stills, and Nash meet the Mamas and the Papas with a lot of Jesus thrown in. I mean, it's kind of got that vibe, right? Great harmonies and, really laid back. I mean, listen, if you're a former hippie, listen, you can smell the patchouli from here. You get your album covers out and get your twigs and seeds cut out of the way, because that's where we're going with this record today. So anyway, they were all students at Abilene Christian College, which was, in Texas, go figure. And they went to see Peter, Paul, and Mary. And at the time, they were in a band called Shiloh. That was the name of their band. And when they went to see Peter, Paul, and Mary, they met Peter Yarrow, the Peter of Peter, Paul, and Mary. And they convinced him to take a listen to some of their songs they're working on. And he was so moved by the songs that he decided to hook him up with his manager, a guy named Albert Grossman. Okay, here's where we tell you to stop. Albert Grossman infamous. He was Bob Dylan's manager. He was Janis Joplin's manager. He don't ask about John Lennon, but anyway, he big time manager. But he hooked him up with those guys, and Peter decided to go ahead and mentor these guys. And they quit college and they moved with Peter up to Woodstock, where Peter lived. This is before the festival and stuff. This is like he was just, Woodstock was a cool place to go and work on music and stuff, right? So they did that, right? And they got the great Phil Ramone as their engineer. He came in and they made a record. And at that time, Grossman was starting his new record label called Bearsville. Now, this label may sound familiar to you if you're a Foghat fan, because all the Foghat records were like this, and Todd Rundgren's early records were on Bearsville. As a matter of fact, Lazarus was the first. Well, Lazarus and Foghat and Todd Rundgren were the first 3 releases on Bearsville Records at the time. Okay. So anyway, they released this record. It had one single that got a little bit of play. It's called "The Warmth of Your Eyes." I'm going to play that for you. It didn't really chart that big or anything, but they opened for Peter, Paul, and Mary and toured with Peter Yarrow for years after this, right? They did a second record in '72 called "Fool's Paradise," but it didn't set the world on fire. But the whole point of this band, what I'm trying to say is, they were very influential in kind of getting Christian music into rock and roll. I'm from Northeast Ohio, Youngstown area, right? So Glass Harp with Phil Keaggy was a huge influence on all of us there. Even though we weren't all the most religious people, Phil and Glass Harp were just, the shit, okay? You want to talk about, there's nobody who's a good guitar player, of the icons, who knows of Phil Keaggy, who doesn't put him on the list of one of the greatest guitar players ever. Just amazing dude. Check him out if you want to check out some really cool guitar playing and tasty music, right? So anyway, like I said, you probably haven't heard of this band, but it's just about the fact that they're influential. Again, with a name like Lazarus, you kind of knew they were going to be pitching a little bit, but that's kind of what they wanted to do. And Peter Yarrow wasn't, religious per se, but he just dug the vibe. They were so genuine that he thought that their music would really touch a lot of people, and it did. So don't get me wrong. I mean, they were influential in their own way. I mean, there wouldn't be any Lifehouses or stuff like that years later if it weren't for bands like Lazarus. Okay, so you may sit there and say, Mark, I've never heard Lazarus before. Well, you're wrong. Okay, if you had a television in the '70s, you heard Lazarus, because Lazarus was the band. Okay, and Billy Hughes was the guy who wrote the song that was used in the Lifesavers commercial. You remember the big old Lifesavers commercial that they had? Was Lifesavers a part of living? That's Lazarus. So the one with Suzanne Summers and her dad, if you remember that one, she's doing the cartwheels and stuff, talking with her dad. And the one with Peter Billingsley, the kid from Christmas Story. Those for 9 years, that was Lifesavers' theme song. So hopefully these guys were set for life, or at least Billy was set for life from that. Okay, so yeah, it's just kind of crazy that people, you've heard of people you didn't know you heard of, right? So anyway, the band did kind of implode, but Billy parlayed that into a really successful career on his own. He got a songwriting partner, this lady named Roxanne Seaman, and they wrote a song called "Welcome to the Edge." Okay, it's kind of a weird song. Okay, I mean I'll be honest with you, I can't connect with it. But it was the theme song for the soap opera Santa Barbara, so my wife tells me, back in the day. But where it was really big was they actually parlayed that in Japan, and it became the theme song for a show over there. And Billy actually moved to Japan and recorded his own version of it, and it was a freaking huge hit, like #1 for months. Okay, it was stayed in the top 10 for 4 months. It was #1 for like 8 weeks. Just big. Okay, and Billy's kind of parlayed that into working with a lot of other cool people. He's worked with the Jacksons. He worked with Philip Bailey. The Chinese Wall album. That's a Billy Hughes song with the Phil Collins and Philip Bailey from Earth, Wind and Fire. Billy Hughes is all over that thing. So that's kind of their deal. You work with Bette Midler, the whole thing. Jesus, go figure, right? So anyway, that is the quick story of the band Lazarus. I just kind of want to talk to them because I'm trying to do things where, like, I'm not doing 5 power pop bands. I kind of caught myself because I'm a power pop guy. I kind of noticed that I was getting into that one. So cool music that I like that are a little bit maybe different. I'm just doing a little bit left turns and right turns and stuff. So I hope you guys check these guys out. The records have been re-released and remastered a couple times because they're pretty influential in their field. So again, it's one of those deals where you haven't heard from them or heard of them, you think, but they're actually pretty influential in what they did. So with that being said, let me go ahead. I'm going to switch sections here. We'll show you the features and functions of this Y55, and we'll play a little bit of that Lazarus track for you. So to show you how this works, I did put a cartridge on here, I forgot to say. That is an Ortofon Super OM10. Brand new. Just open it up to check it out. Great match on this table. So if you need a cool cartridge, this would be $75. That's what I paid for it. It's installed stuff in my Fiker Protractor. So if you need want to have this thing plug and play ready, grab something like this. If you got your own cartridge, send it to me. This arm, I'm not going to walk you through it. Okay. I'm trying to get my life back from explaining to people how to set up their servo arms. So send me your cartridge or let me get you something new or whatever to put on it for you, because they're not hard. They're just not intuitive. Okay. So anyway, with that being said, this is a fully automatic turntable, right? It's kind of two separate sections. This motor section is separate from the arm control section, but they do dual functions, okay? You've got a power button right here. It turns it on, okay? Now, the first thing you're going to notice is this arm is up. Like, why is that arm up, Mark? We'll get to that in a minute. But when you power this thing on, the arm sucks down. And it goes to 33 with the red light. That's normal, okay? You have a button here that switches it to 45, okay? And you go back to your 33. Now, you can start the motor manually from over here. So if you just want to make this a manual turntable, you can start it from here. Now, as soon as you power it up and it gets to speed, that red will turn green. That lets you know that it's locked. Same thing with the 45. You go back to here. As soon as it gets to the speed, it locks. Go back to 33. As soon as it gets back down to speed, it locks, okay? And you turn it off, okay? That's how that works. And you see the arm pop up, okay? Now, over here is your separate arm control section. You've got your tracking force and your anti-skating and your Q damping, because it's got a servo arm, right? Those are like old style wheels on pots, okay? But you've got other controls here. You got a repeat function, the one that's turned on. A repeat function will play the side over and over again. The size, it gives you 30 centimeters for a 12-inch record and 17 for a 45 single. This has that locate feature like the Denon. So if you hold this arm down, as long as you hold this down, it'll zoom over anywhere you want on the record, and then you can stop it and drop the arm down and play, or same thing, you're coming back, right? That's the cool thing there. Now the button right next to it is the up down, which up and down, right? Start and stop is just that. If the turntable stopped, it'll start it. If it's started, it'll stop it, okay? Now this has removable arm shift, just like a Denon. This is because these are kissing cousins. This got a lot of the same technology and circuits in it as the Denons do. Sony and Denon and JVC work together on this servo technology. So you loosen this up right here. You can take this straight arm out, and there are S arms available. They are very rare. I mean, you can get them. They're about the same price as a Denon S arm, and you can find one, $200, $250, but they just weren't as plentiful. So if you want an S arm, I can get one, but you're going to want to get the straight arm first and be on the lookout. That's just kind of how it works, right? And as I mentioned, this is a Super OM10 moving magnet cartridge. It's dialed in, ready to rock with the Fiker, right? You have an arm lock back here that locks it in place, which is kind of important because it's got the dreaded zero balance button. Okay, so let me turn this power back off. So I'm just going to quick explain this. From what I've been told from my Japanese friends, I guess, pioneers do this too, okay? I guess there was issues in Japan with like power brownouts and stuff, right? And what would happen is these audiophiles would have this tube gear, and if you're playing a record and the electricity cut out, a tube amp won't just quit. It'll roar down to a stop, right? And I guess people were worried about a record going slower and have more bass and like actually messing up woofers and stuff like that. So what these guys decided to do is they decided to make their own way of making sure that when the power is off, it would never grind to a stop. So what JVC came up with is this stupid idea called zero balance. Like I said, these guys are hourly. They were not salaried. They were just like, how can we make this the hardest way possible? Long story short is they build a 0.5 gram of negative tracking force into this thing, because this is a servo arm. It does not use gravity to suck it down. When you turn the motor on here, it sucks it down because there's a magnet that sucks the arm down. When this thing is set here, it sucks down 1.5 grams or whatever you got set it down, okay? Well, in fact, it's sucking 2 grams down because there's a 0.5 gram backup. And don't get lost in the weeds, because this turntable was done long before digital stylus gauges and all that easy shit, to where all you have to do to set this thing up now, disregard all this shit. Literally just get a stylus gauge, go over here, set this thing. If you want to track at 1.5 grams, put this on 1.5 grams and adjust this arm back here till it reads 1.5 grams and Bob's your uncle. That's all you got to do, okay? You come back here, it's got VTA, a fully automatic turntable with VTA. So there's a screw here and a screw here. You loosen those and you can lift the arm up to make sure your cartridge stays parallel, which makes this a really cool audiophile turntable. Plus, it's a long arm. It's a nice long arm on this thing. Back here is your counterweight. You know, kind of another weird design why they did this, but that's how you lock it in. And this hole right here is for your lock where it drops. I've got that set for you perfectly well, okay? And that's really about it. So when you want to play a record on this thing, just make sure you got a record on it. And you hit the start. It fires up, it turns green, it comes over, the record drops into place, and we will take a listen. Get your pipe out. Let's take a listen to Lazarus.
Time after time, I feel the warmth of your eyes, and see you've laid down your disguise, and you're free to be just what you are to me. And it's time, after all the years we played, our endless game of charades. Don't you lie, it's the best time of your life.
And that is the great Lazarus. Like I said, it's an excellent recording, by the way, too, because it's all acoustic. There's no big drums. It's also an extremely long record. I think it's about 15 minutes long, which is kind of out there for an LP at the time. But it's a really good recording, really super clean and quiet. And I bet you can find these records for next to nothing on eBay. I didn't even check. I mean, I just I'd heard about this band because of Glass Harp back in the day. So anyway. This is the great Lazarus. Let me go ahead. I'll put the dust cover down. We'll talk about the pricing and stuff and how you can make this thing yours, man. Thank you guys so much for checking it out. So y'all, with the dust cover down and the dog's still not coming in here because he's too big of a celebrity. I don't know. Let's go to the map, man. Thank you guys so much for checking out this JVC Victor QL-Y55f fully automatic direct drive turntable. You guys know the drill. I've done all the recapping and stuff. I've said all that earlier. But anyway, this turntable, as it sits right now, without that Ortofon cartridge or without any cartridge, is $700 plus the shipping. And depending on where you live, that could be anywhere from $65 to $125. Because welcome to FedEx, they're crazy. Okay. Now anyway, this dust cover does have a little crack in it right here. You can feel it with your finger. Somewhere right here. Yeah, you can feel it with your finger right here. Okay. So if you're a dust cover snob, you might want to get into a new dust cover. I don't care about dust covers no more. But my guy, Efren, will hook you up with a new dust cover if you want one down the road. And they're about $100 average. They're anywhere from 90 to 110. The big heavy ones are usually a little bit more, but I think this is a $100 one. And I actually have a new one here for it. What I decided to do was I got some new dust covers in, and I'm just going to use them as demos. So if you're interested in seeing what this would look like with a new cover on it before you buy it, just email me. It's on the description there, and I'll throw the cover on it to show you. So anyway, guys, like I said, man, with the Mogami cable recapped and restored, it's a freaking deal, man. It's awesome, man. So again, I can't thank you guys enough for checking it out. I don't know what's next. I'm really trying to take it easy. I did more turntables last month, I think, than I ever have in a month. which is kind of crazy because you guys probably thought I was dead. But I have so many repeat customers and referrals. Thank you guys so much for all that. It's just been crazy. People, I mean, emailing me going, "Hey, my buddy got a turntable from you. Do you have one?" That kind of stuff. And that's awesome. I can't thank you guys enough for all that. So I'm gonna assume that maybe another JVC, maybe a QL-Y55, the cool one, the semi-automatic plus one I do. I think maybe one of those might be coming up. Maybe another Pioneer. The Pioneer's been really popular lately. Those things are really cool as well. I don't know. But anyway, with all that being said, man, I so appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for checking this thing out. This is a really sweet one, man. So hopefully somebody jumps on it quick. Again, with the new changes again, for a little while there, I could do the old regular PayPal, but now it's got to be Zelle or PayPal friends and family, because they're going to go back to that crap they say here with 1099ing people when they sell their lawn chairs on eBay. So go figure. So again, guys, thank you so much again. Pet your dogs. Send my Snoop Dogg your pictures of your female rescue dogs. I actually do show them to him. He actually gets a kick out of it. So thank you guys again. We appreciate you. And man, we'll catch up with you soon. Happy New Year.